And great D. He had more rebounds than anybody in the game. He had 11 boards, which Kyrie, the Mavericks need him to do one very specific thing. If they score 89 points, which they did in Game 1, they're going to get swept in this series. They have to find a way to get to 100, and their path there is Luka and Kyrie combining for 60. And I think
absolutely.
The first thing that I'm going to look at, when I break out the Game 2 box score is how many points did those two guys score combined. And Kyrie obviously has to do more. And I think, this notion the Celtics being a historically great team, let's see. They have let a couple of Game 2s at home go in this playoff run. Game 2 against Miami, great shooting game for the Heat. Game 2 against the Cavs, where the Celtics played terrible. Let's see if they can follow up a good Game 1 performance with a good Game 2 performance, because the old Celtics that I know would come out, fall asleep, lay an egg, and this thing would be 1-1 next week, headed back to Dallas.
And then they'd win in 5. Right, that's the old Celtics I know, right? At least this year's version of the Celtics. You're right. They might slip up here, but I just think this team is so different with Porzingis, and not just from a scoring ability. Like, he's a true rim protector. He had, 3 blocks in Game 1, and that changes everything. Because, look, Al Horford is not a defensive stalwart, at all.
At this point, it is especially.
Yes, yeah. Now, back in the day, he was much better defensively. Now he's more of a stretch-the-floor kind of big. No, Porzingis, guys can come to the hole with bad intentions, and he will send them the other way. And just that presence down there, I think, changes a lot. We know Kyrie Irving is great at finishing, but it makes it even more difficult when he gets there and you see Porzingis, because he's on 7-3 that you got to shoot over. I always thought the Celtics were the better team, and after seeing what Kristaps, great name by the way, was able to do defensively, I think that makes them just that more of a better team.
I'll look forward to meeting Kristaps Golden, your future grandson.
Man, it would have to be a grandkid. I even said I thought I missed the boat, because Kristaps never entered my mind when I was naming the kids. Actually, I only named one of them. My wife
you have a brother named Chris, but not the tops on the end of it.
Kristaps,
did not enter your calculus. Danny Green, ESPN NBA analyst on the 6 o'clock Sports Center. He talked about, what can the Mavericks adjust to try to put themselves in a better position?
They have to set better screens. They have to get the mismatches, the ISOs, and have Porzingis and Al Horford come out on the paint. Obviously, Al Horford had a great game all around, offensively and defensively. He set the tone for them early. He got an early dunk, got an early 3-ball, and defensively he contested those guys very well at the rim and on the perimeter. I think Luka was 1 for 7, Kai 0 for 5, so he played extremely well, but I don't think he's going to sustain that. Keep him out on the floor, make him move his feet, make him play one-on-one and guard those guys, and you can make plays. I don't see Luka having 1 assist either, so if he can get the mismatch, get the good screens, and get Horford and Porzingis out on the perimeter, attack them, wear them down, I think it'll be to their advantage.
That was some awesome basketball analysis. I just think Kyrie has to be better, and they have to make more of the open shots. If they are missing threes like they were in Game 1, and if Kyrie is off like he was in Game 1, I think Dallas has pretty much no chance. Coming up next, have we been, I think Emmett thinks I have been.
You most certainly have.
Sleeping on the Celtics this postseason. Wow, Boston might win another championship. We'll talk to a guy who does play-by-play for the Celtics and is getting fitted for a ring. Next on ESPN Radio.
This weekend on ESPN Radio, Shohei Mookie Betts and the LA Dodgers face Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, and the New York
NBA Finals. And really, neither are you guys because Cleveland didn't make it. For those of us still covering the NBA, we do like to give the people what they want, and that's honest, objective coverage. And that honest, objective coverage is that the Boston Celtics are one of the best teams ever.
Drew, when Porzingis checked in, I felt like this series got unfair. What was it like in the building, and do you think it's sustainable that he'll play that way for the rest of the series?
Sustainable to play like that, a point every minute, probably not. But to play like the third best player on the Celtics and a serious weapon on both ends of the floor, absolutely. It was really cool when he came in. He got a standing ovation just for walking on the floor because, people have missed him. And the team hasn't seemed like they missed him because they were 9-1 without him in the playoffs, including a 5-game gentlemanly sweep of the Cleveland Cavaliers. But I think the team knows how important he is to their success. I think the fan base in Boston, everyone loves to sports hate Boston fans, but I do think the Celtics fan base is pretty knowledgeable, and I do think they recognize what a difference he makes offensively and defensively. He's kind of been the difference for this team, especially on offense, from years past where it feels like if they're not making threes, they're beatable. With him, they have a different option.
Go through the weighing
he took a lot of
procedure.
threes in that game one, but you also saw him taking advantage of mismatches when teams try to switch a lot on the perimeter to avoid getting blitzed from three like the Celtics do to a lot of teams. Porzingis can be the guy who takes advantage in the post. And so it was really cool to see them recognize that. Everyone was giving him a standing ovation. I saw Bill Simmons was standing up and cheering when Porzingis came in. It was good to see him remember his roots.
Let's find a
You
new
love
route.
to see that. And so, yeah, it was really fun to be in the building for that. And then he came in and he was obviously amazing.
Drew, will Porzingis have the bigger impact offensively or defensively?
I actually think defensively. That's what I thought coming into the series because if you think about how Dallas plays, Luka is a maestro in the pick and roll, one of the best players we've ever seen there. And the reason is he gets wherever he wants, he plays at his own pace, and then he has a lot of options until the very last second of when he's in the paint or wherever he ends up. He can kick it out for a three, does the late kick out as well as anybody I've ever seen. He can obviously score himself, but then he can throw lobs to those guys, Lively and Gaffer, who are basically human pogo sticks, and that's where they're really dangerous. And those two guys have been incredible all playoffs. When you have Porzingis in there, he's 7'2" or 7'3", 7'4", depending where you look, and then his wingspan is even longer than that, and he can be disruptive in the paint. So defensively, I think his impact is even more important in this series, but obviously, if he's going to score 20 points in 20 minutes off the bench, that makes a huge difference offensively.
Drew Carter with us, NBC Sports Boston, play-by-play for the Celtics as we talk about the finals and get ready for Game 2. Everybody's saying Kyrie needs to be better. Drew, what was Boston's reaction to Kyrie sort of taking a shot at the environment and saying he thought the fans were going to be louder in Game 1 than they were?
He just can't help himself, right? I mean, the whole season, the story has been Kyrie, man, so reformed. I'm so happy for Kyrie. He's matured so much. Has he? Are we sure? Because most of the season, first of all, he didn't play a ton. I don't think he even qualified for All-NBA status. So that was normal Kyrie. He's been great at times in these playoffs, but he's also been inconsistent. And I think most fans going into the finals wouldn't realize that Jaylen Brown has scored more and more efficiently than Kyrie Irving for the balance of the postseason. To me, it's been a little bit overhyped, the backcourt of Luka and Kyrie. Everyone on TNT said it's the most talented scoring backcourt ever. And I feel like we maybe jumped the shark with that a little bit. Kyrie has been pretty inconsistent if you look at that OKC series, and I think the Thunder are kind of a good mirror of the Celtics in terms of their switchability on the perimeter and their size and length and the number of guys they can throw at Kyrie. And you saw that with the Celtics. I mean, Kyrie didn't do a whole lot in that game one. Really, Luka got no help. I mean, he was awesome, and nobody else really showed up for the Mavericks. Lively was in foul trouble. Obviously, I expect him to, if he can stay out of that, he'll be better. But with Kyrie, it's just a really good matchup for the Celtics. And even with Luka, the thing with Luka is he's so good, he's going to get his no matter what. But the Celtics have the perfect team on paper to defend the Mavericks. They've got Tatum and Brown to defend Doncic, and then Holiday can help out there as well. And then You got two all-defensive guys in the backcourt to defend Kyrie, and then you throw in on top of that the fact that the crowd is as hostile to him as probably anybody since like Bill Laimbeer. I mean, the people in Boston really dislike him, and obviously part of that is the passion and the fact that he stepped on Lucky and flipped them off. But you were in Boston for those 2 years. I've heard Kyrie Irving described as divisive and disruptive with a team that people thought was going to compete for an NBA championship from 2017 to 2019. And so, the whole Kyrie redemption story has not really landed in Boston quite yet. And I think it's going to be pretty venomous again in Game 2.
People still like him in Cleveland. Drew Carter with us, NBC Sports Boston. Drew, did Game 1 change anything at all about how you thought this series was going to go?
You might not believe this, Goldie, but yes. As much of a homer as you like to say for the Celtics, I was a little nervous about the series just because Dallas is so much different from when they were, even the last time we saw them in March. I mean, that was after the deadline. Gafford started that game, but I think everyone, who really follows closely knows that the Mavericks in the postseason versus them in the regular season are two different teams. So, I was a little nervous going in. The Mavericks have the best player in Doncic, and there was a lot of conversation about that going into the series. So, a little nervous, yeah, but with the way the Celtics defended Kyrie and with the way Porzingis looked coming back, it did change how I viewed the series. I thought Celtics in 6 coming in, and now I would probably say Celtics in 5 with just how much they looked like the better team. I mean, I hope people don't look back at these playoffs and say it was kind of boring because the Celtics just dominated the entire time. And I'm honestly not trying to be a homer in saying that. I just think that, if we expected a more competitive series than the Celtics had to face through the Eastern Conference, and based on Game 1, that might not be the case. But we don't want to count our chickens before they hatch. We're not gassing up the duck boats just yet.
All right, I follow Drew Carey, of course. I follow Dr. Drew Pinsky, who I probably should unfollow at this point. I follow Drew Aller, at the quarterback of Penn State, who grew up in Medina, Ohio. I follow Drew Brees. I no longer follow Drew Carter, the 17th most important Drew in currently the sports world in America. Drew, appreciate the time as always. We'll talk soon.
What is Dr. Drew Pinsky a doctor in?
Nothing. He's a doctor. Bizarreness.
And Dr. Dre's more of a doctor.
Look, I loved Loveline back in the day, but Dr. Drew Pinsky's gone a bit off the reservation over the last couple of years. Drew Carter, thank you for the time. Appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, we have a championship weekend going on right now, Emmett, in sports. Who is going to take the cake of the championship weekend? We discuss next on ESPN Radio.
Hey, it's resident Super Bowl champ Chris Candy. Coming up Monday, I'll give you my biggest takeaways from Game 2 of the Finals with Upon Further Review at 6:30 a.m. Eastern. It's Unsportsmanlike Monday, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Mandy's 3 tickets are now on sale.
Go to ESPNLA.com and click on the Mandy's 3 logo.
Get them today before they sell out.
Mandy's 3 is presented by
the LA County Department of Mental Health, Hope, Recovery, Well-Being.
Don't miss your chance to be at the Commerce Casino for the biggest party 7-10 throws all year. Mandy's 3.
Temps are heating up, and so are the ticket deals this summer with Vivid Seats. Whether it's scoring tickets for a night out at the ballpark or witnessing the rising stars of women's basketball, Vivid Seats has you covered. With a robust rewards program and wide selection of tickets, Vivid Seats makes it easy to score great deals on great seats with a 100% buyer guarantee, giving you the peace of mind for the ultimate fan experience. Just visit vividseats.com or download the app today. Vivid Seats, the official ticketing partner of ESPN.
last year's RV trip. We met a couple with the same bumper sticker. What are the odds?
Your cousin isn't a good storyteller.
He was a podiatrist, or was it a pharmacist? Huh,
you don't say.
I can't remember.
But she owns an RV protected by Progressive, and you don't. So until you get your own RV, her stories are the most interesting stories you've ever heard.
Wow, interesting.
And when you do get your own RV, save money by bundling it with your home, auto, or other vehicles with Progressive.
Oh, anesthesiologist. He was an anesthesiologist.
Residents, insurance company affiliates, and other insurers not available in all states.
It seems pretty clear now that the low mortgage rates of 2020 and 21 won't likely be back anytime soon, which means most homeowners won't sell for years. Still, mortgages are far cheaper than other forms of debt, and it's the only interest that can be tax deductible. So if you have a ton of equity in your home, why not use it to pay off those high interest credit cards? Or do the home improvements that'll keep you happy for years to come. At the Loan Exchange, we offer no closing costs on first mortgages or home equity lines of credit. So call the Loan Exchange to discuss which one is better for you, without fee or obligation. I'll say it again. The Loan Exchange is the place for no closing cost firsts and HELOCs. Call 1-855-752-9944 or go to theloanexchange.com. NMLS 1637539. Loan subject to credit approval. See website for licensing information, loan terms and conditions. Equal housing lender. That's 1-855-752-9944 or theloanexchange.com.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel angry or depressed most of the time? Do you feel neglected or unloved?
Do you feel that if the drinker loved you, she or he would stop drinking?
If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
Not everyone trapped by alcohol is an alcoholic.
Families and friends are suffering too. Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
It's Evan Cohen, Unsportsmanlike with Evan, Candy, and Michelle. Now, mornings 6 to 10 a.m. on LA's mega sports station, 710 ESPN. KSPN Los Angeles, a Good Karma Brands radio station.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Ed Mangan. The Olympics will get underway in Paris next month, and Caitlin Clark will apparently not be a part of them. Some reports say Clark has been left off Team USA's women's basketball roster. She was unable to play at the national training camp this year because of Iowa's trip to the Final Four. Diana Taurasi and Brittany Griner among those expected to be going to the Olympic team. Iga Swiatek rolled to another French Open title. She defeated Jasmine Bellini in straight sets 6-2, 6-1. It was her third straight French Open championship and fourth overall. Tonight is Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals as the Panthers host the Oilers in Florida. Edmonton will look for its first cup since 1990, Canada's first Stanley Cup since 1993. Meanwhile, the Panthers will look for their first ever Stanley Cup. Tonight's game gets underway at 8 Eastern on ABC and the ESPN app. Meanwhile, Boston and Dallas will play Game 2 of the NBA Finals tomorrow night on ESPN Radio and ABC. Two-time national champion, NBA champion Norris Cole says the Mavericks have to put Game 1 behind them. They expect to come out victorious in Game 2.
No matter how many points you win by, it only counts for one win. So whether you win by 1 or you win by 100, it only goes for one win. And if you're the losing team, it's only one loss. So they did what they were supposed to do. They defended their home court.
Tomorrow night's coverage on ESPN Radio gets underway at 7 Eastern. The Celtics are a 7.5-point favorite on ESPN Bet. The baseball, the Yankees and Dodgers play again tonight in the Bronx. You can hear the game on ESPN Radio with coverage getting underway at 7 Eastern. The Dodgers beat the Yankees at 11 last night.
Let's call it championship weekend. Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final. Game 2 of the NBA Finals. And we'll be the place to talk about it all. It's Greeny, starting at 10 a.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Game 1 Stanley Cup Finals is tonight, 8 o'clock, ABC, ESPN Plus. Edmonton, a plus 115 underdog against the Florida Panthers, minus 135. Emmett, I just found this out.
Panthers are in Miami. I guess that bothers people in South Florida. They're north of Miami and more like in Fort Lauderdale.
So Miami doesn't want to claim the Panthers? Is that what you're telling me?
Correct.
That's crazy.
They are a team from the state of Florida, not a team from Miami. And they don't play in the same building that the Miami Heat are in, or, of course, near where the Miami Dolphins are, or, the Miami Marlins. I think that stadium is like all the way downtown or something, where about 5,000 people go to watch mediocre baseball every single night. They don't want to claim the Florida Panthers. Now, we've been asking Canada this question all morning at 888 say ESPN. So if you are a Canadian listener, it's Canadians only. Here, and now I guess if you're an American and you're from Canada, you can provide perspective on this. But I think a lot of people are assuming that Canada is going to root for the Oilers. Canada has not won a Stanley Cup in 31 years. This is their national pastime. They are the hotbed of hockey, and they haven't won the Stanley Cup in 31 years. But I think we're finding out it's actually a pretty divisive issue in Canada. If you're a Maple Leafs fan, should you or shouldn't you be rooting for the Oilers over the Panthers?
I'd say no. You got to stick to your allegiance, right? When it comes, if you root for a Canadian team that is not Edmonton, then you got to root for your team, or just be indecisive. You just go, I watch it, but I'm not rooting for anybody. Be a neutral, as I believe they are called.
I am rooting for Edmonton. Well, I don't have any allegiance to the Panthers. But also because I'm getting kind of caught up in the story, and I would like to see the Cup go because I think they appreciate the Cup more than they do in, Carolina or some of these places where they've won the Stanley Cup.
You just said Miami doesn't even want to claim the team, so of course they're not going to appreciate a Stanley Cup.
Emmett, the Arizona had a hockey team. I didn't even remember they had one. Someone told me they were moving, and my answer to that was they're still there.
They're right.
Arizona or Phoenix Coyotes? Yeah, right. Yeah. They're going to Utah to be the Grizzly Bears or the Yetis, or there were about
the hockey club. There were some decent names.
They're down to about 6. 888 say ESPN is the number if you want to jump in with us. 888 say ESPN. If you are Canadian and you're not an Oilers fan, do you root for the Oilers because you're rooting for your country? Do you root against the Oilers because, you're a Canucks fan or a Jets fan or a Senators fan or a Flames fan, Maple Leafs fan, Canadians fan? Emmett, 2,541 miles between Edmonton and wherever the hell the Panthers play. That is the longest distance between two teams in the history of the Stanley Cup Finals. And I got to look, Emmett, you might have to make 2 connections to get from Fort Lauderdale to Edmonton. I guess maybe in Denver, where in Minneapolis, where do you change planes if you're trying to get from Fort Lauderdale to Edmonton, Alberta?
Yeah, I have no idea. I just wonder if the team plane is going to get refueled in the air, like you see, like some of the military planes do, because that is a long trip.
Long way. Giacomo is in Toronto, Canada. Giacomo's on ESPN Radio. What's up, Jock?
How's it going, guys?
Pretty good, man. How's it going?
Good. No, I just I had the radio on here on our sister station here, TSN 1050 in Toronto, listening to this whole, other Canadian fans rooting for the Edmonton Oilers simply because they're from Canada. It is the complete opposite. No chance. As much as I despise the Florida Panthers for being a divisional rival of the Maple Leafs, there is absolutely no chance I am rooting for the Edmonton Oilers and a bunch of ex-Leafs that play on that team. I don't need to see it, so I'm all for the Panthers. And as much as it pains me to say that, so I just wanted to make sure you guys got the story straight over there on the other side of the border.
Thank you, Giacomo. I just want you to know we've had people call from Toronto who say, "I love Connor McDavid. I'm rooting for Edmonton." We appreciate the call, but that is not the sentiment, Emmett, of everybody. This feels like a 50-50 split issue. Yeah,
it's split. We've got a civil war going on in Canada over Edmonton. Who would have thought it? Who would have knew that the whole country would be split on whether you're rooting for Edmonton or not?
In typical Canadian fashion, it is a very civil war.
Yes.
Between the two. Wing is in Ontario as well, and he listens on TSN 1050, I'm guessing, and joins us on ESPN Radio. What's up, Wing?
Hey, Ashley, I'm listening on satellite radio, and I'm about 24 hours from Giacomo, same province.
Okay.
And sorry, Giacomo, but you are allowed to cheer for the ex-Leafs because the Leafs suck. Nice to see him doing something away from Toronto. But
are you a Leafs? Hold on, Wing. Are you a Leafs fan saying that, or are you like a Canadiens fan ripping on a team?
Oh no, I'm an anti-Leafs fan saying that. I'm a fan of the Leafs rival Ottawa, so Leafs suck, plain and simple.
Okay, well, what about as a Senators fan? How do you feel about the Oilers?
I'm all for cheering for Canadian teams outside of Toronto and Montreal. If you're a Flames fan or a Canucks fan, you're not going to cheer for Edmonton. But two things. Every Stanley Cup winner is always filled with Canadians. And as much as we like winning the Cup, best on best Olympic gold is just much better, and we seem to win that all the time.
Appreciate the call.
Yeah.
Look, this will really be decided in basketball in the Olympics, let's be honest, because the Canadian team with Shea and Wiggins and those guys is really going to be bringing
pretty good.
Jamal Murray.
Yeah.
But hockey is your sport, so, like, of course you win it. Like, if baseball or basketball is the American sport, Canada's never beaten America in those sports once ever.
How about this? Let's line up and play some football. Y'all want to do that? You want to see who's the best in football? You know, the Argonauts or the Chiefs?
Football was invented in Canada.
Sure, but it was perfected in America. I'll tell you that
They
much.
call it American football for a reason. 888 say ESPN. Shane is all the way. I'm curious to hear this one. Is in British Columbia. Joins us on ESPN Radio. Hey, Shane.
What's up, guys?
What's up, man?
Hey, you know, like, yeah, what I've been saying, like, Toronto Maple Leafs fans, I'm sorry, they are a whole nother breed. So, Jocko from Toronto, I mean, yeah, I respect the opinion and whatnot, but we kind of put them into a class of their own because they think Toronto's the center of the universe. From Vancouver, I actually grew up in Seattle, so I follow NFL, I follow NHL. You know what? I was sad when the Canucks were knocked out. Absolutely, I'm cheering for the Oilers. Like, we want the Cup to come back to Canada. I don't have a problem with the fact that they're in my same division. Respect Connor McDavid. You know, it's going to be a great series. I also respect the fact there's a bunch of Canadians on the Florida team. So, you know, it'll be fun either way, but I agree with what you said before. I think it's split 50-50. Some people will cheer for the team with more Canadians. Some people will cheer for only their team. But I'm all in on the Oilers.
Appreciate the call. I've come to the realization, Emmett, like World Cup and stuff, obviously people cheer for whole countries. But in general, sports is regional to the point where, you know, you're from Edmonton, you cheer for Edmonton. You don't really care about Vancouver or Calgary or Toronto or Montreal. You'd be more likely to root against it. I mean, look, they're teams in the same country. You know, in the United States, we don't root for another team just because they're in our country. We might root against a team because they're a rival in our state or in our division or something like that. Now, when it comes to the national team, you know, the Olympics or the World Cups or the, you know, that's where you support your entire nation. But in a country like the United States, I don't even think that resonates nearly as much. Like, if you ask the average American, would you rather win the Olympic gold medal, or would you rather have, you know, the Seattle Seahawks win the Super Bowl? I think that's pretty easy calculus for most American sports fans.
I think so. You would be surprised, though. I think some folks would be like, I don't care about hockey, so I'd rather, you know, my local team win the Super Bowl or something. I could see the allegiance still being strong locally, depending on the sport. Yeah. I think, you know, and I just think we see the hockey as a Canadian sport.
Yes,
can I give a good comp to this?
The voice of Nick Carty. Yes.
Yes.
Being from New York, we have multiple teams in multiple sports. When the Yankees and Mets are, say, one's eliminated, one's not, there is never Yankee fans are rooting for Mets and vice versa. Like, the two teams don't like each other.
And they're not even in the same league.
No, they don't. Yeah. They never play other than once a year.
And really, they're not in the same league from a class standpoint.
They are not.
Let alone American versus
figuratively and literally. Yes.
By the way, did we deport the Mets this weekend? Evan, I think we did. Did we send the Mets to London? Poor London.
Yeah.
Look, as an American, let me apologize for sending the Mets your way. That's a bad look. We should not have done that. I'd like to say I'm sorry. Hammer and Emmett are presented by ESPN Radio and presented by Progressive Insurance. Protect your home and auto. Save when you bundle. Get a quote by going to Progressive.com. That is Progressive.com. Coming up, we're going to catch you on everything going on around the world of sports that you need to know. Download it to your brain. Hammer and Emmett on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
The NBA Finals on ESPN Radio. After dropping Game 1 in Boston, the Mavs look to respond, while Boston has their sights set on a 2-0 lead when they head to Dallas.
That's another deep one.
Begins tomorrow at 7 Eastern, with tip-off at 8 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ABC, presented by Indeed.
Mandy's 3 tickets are now on sale.
Go to ESPNLA.com and click on the Mandy's 3 logo.
Get them today before they sell out.
Mandy's 3 is presented by
The Commerce Casino. Of course, home of Mandy's 3. More money, more tables, more action. That's why you choose The Commerce Casino and Hotel. Don't miss your chance to be at The Commerce Casino for the biggest party 710 throws all year. Mandy's 3.
What do you do about car trouble? Call Dad? Why not give him a break this Father's Day and visit AutoZone instead? If it's a battery problem, AutoZone has free battery testing and charging, and battery options as low as $89.99. And right now, you can save at the AutoZone Father's Day sale through June 16th. Give Dad a break and maybe get him something too at AutoZone.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
People are going to want to see you fall when you get to the top.
3 stars, 1 season, changing history.
Cardoso for 3! To plan these environments, this is what we work for. We fought so hard all season long.
You could not have scripted a better ending to this magical women's college season.
Kiki Rice, Camila Cardoso, and Caitlin Clark. ESPN Plus Original presents Full Court Press, presented by State Farm. Stream now on ESPN Plus.
Hey, it's Travis Lee here talking to you about Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. 5 million people are playing Prize Picks. You know why? Because it's fun, because it's exciting to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. All you got to do is pick more or less on 2 or more player stats for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash.
All right, Trav, you know I'm doing basketball. You know I'm doing the NBA. The finals mean more on Prize Picks, and so do the star players. You get boosted payouts on select basketball stars that you won't find anywhere else. And don't forget the WNBA right now as well. Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese. You go down the list, we're playing basketball.
So get on it, download the app today. Use the code 710 for a first deposit match of up to $100. That's code 710 on Prize Picks for a deposit match of up to $100.
Download the app today. That's code 710 on Prize Picks for a deposit match of up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
It just isn't the same without the lion. Join the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance today. Visit stzwa.org.
LA's mega sports station.
710 ESPN.
I see no changes. Wake up in the morning and I ask myself, it's like worth living, should I blast myself? I'm tired of being poor and even worse, so black, my stomach hurts, so I'm looking for a person.
So Emmett and I are different in a lot of ways, but there are a few things we both like. Hammer and Emmett are on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. Emmett, we are both soda drinkers, okay?
Yes.
Now,
Yes,
I'm not proud of this. I know it's horrible for me. You don't have to tweet at me at HammerNation19 and remind me that it's terrible for me. Emmett, so do you, but it's my guilty pleasure. I average 3 soda pops a week. And by the way, I don't drink your diet crap. I drink the real, full-fledged, original flavors of soda.
And I'm drinking like 3 a day, by the way. So,
at least I feel a little bit healthier than you.
Yeah.
Emmett, did you see the big news? So,
what's up?
in the entire American soda history, the number 1 soda, Coke. The number 2 soda, Pepsi. In all of America until now. Just yesterday, according to news reports, Dr. Pepper, for the first time ever, passed Pepsi to grab the number 2 spot in the most favorite sodas amongst Americans. My favorite soda and the official soda of tailgates and all of our college football coverage here at ESPN Radio. I want to say congratulations to the good doctor, Dr. Pepper, holding the number 2 spot. Your thoughts?
Hey, pick yourself up, Pepsi. You'll be back there in no time. Man, Pepsi just dropped Pepsi Lime. It's easily the best Pepsi I've ever tasted in my life. It's amazing.
Pepsi Lime?
Oh, it slaps. I was a little skeptical, but man, it is my favorite Pepsi.
Hammer and Emmett on ESPN Radio, presented by Progressive Insurance. At Progressive, they're making things even easier. They'll help you bundle home, car insurance together so you can save on both. Learn more. Go to Progressive.com or call 1-800-PROGRESSIVE.
This just in.
Hammer and Emmett. News or what? Saturday headlines.
We welcome in the producer of Hammer and Emmett on ESPN Radio, Nick Cardy, who has Saturday headlines. What's up, Nick?
What's going on, guys? That's actually, I'm more of a Coke fan. I think it's the best. Can of Coke is the best soda in the world, but
I'm a Pepsi dude.
And I'm a fountain soda person.
Oh, fountain soda's better.
Can of Coke is undefeated.
Well, all right. Well, we may get back to this. We have to hit headlines, though. Now, right now, we're contractually obligated. Go ahead, Nick.
All right, we'll start in the WNBA. Last night, the Indiana Fever took down the Washington Mystics. Caitlin Clark tied a WNBA rookie record with 7 3-pointers, and the news broke today that she will not be heading to Paris with the USA Olympic team, a source told ESPN, confirming to multiple reports. Clark will be left off the USA team. The team includes stars like Brianna Stewart, Asia Wilson, Sabrina Ionescu, Christine Brennan. She broke the story. USA Today columnist had this to say: I've seen some bad team and athlete selection decisions. This is the worst. Makes absolutely no sense for a women's sport that would have been catapulted onto the world stage in the greatest way possible with Caitlin Clark. Emmett, your thoughts?
I don't think this is that big of a deal. I mean, you look at that team, that's a damn good team. Now, you could argue, sure, maybe Caitlin deserves to have a spot, but when you're taking professional players, and she's done pretty good so far, but I mean, I don't think it's a big deal. The U.S. women's team looks like a really good roster. To me, much ado about nothing.
I mean, I remember the 04 Olympic team took Melo, Wade, and LeBron, and they ended up losing in the Olympics because they took those guys, and Emmett, they weren't ready. My take on this is that all-star teams should be a popularity contest. That's where you could put Caitlin Clark in there. I'm sorry, is she one of the best American basketball players in the world today? And I think the answer to that is no, and that's not an insult to her. I think she'll be on the Olympic team in 2028, but you don't want to put somebody on an Olympic team until they've really, really earned it. I mean, this isn't an all-star game. It's not a popularity contest. We're trying to win a gold medal over here, and that has to be the number one priority, not drawing eyeballs and TV ratings and all that.
Yeah, I don't think everybody in France is like, what's wrong with the U.S. women's team? Why isn't Caitlin Clark on there? They're not focused on that. This is an us thing.
Speaking of focus, Kike Hernandez had a bit of trouble with that last night in the Dodger-Yankee game in the Bronx. Dodgers ended up winning 2-1 in extra innings, but in the fourth inning, during a live Apple TV interview, Kike Hernandez was mic'd up and was being interviewed in the midst of play. It's a common occurrence that's happened over the past few years. Only issue is Hernandez had a ball hit to him, but he booted it and had an error on the play. In the post-game presser, he said it distracted him a little bit, but I think
tied into this. I appreciate baseball trying different things to drive viewership. I think it's ridiculous that we're interviewing players in the middle of the game. Like, you can interview players when they're sitting in the dugout. You can interview players in the bullpen. You can interview players in the stands and in the clubhouse. Don't be interviewing guys while they're fielding balls in the fourth inning of a game against the Yankees.
Could you imagine interviewing Kyrie Irving during the finals while the ball's in play? Like, that's not going to work out well. Or interviewing Pat Mahomes while he's walking up to the line of scrimmage trying to read a defense. I totally get it. Major League Baseball's doing everything they can to help promote the game. Honestly, I think the pitch clock and some of the stuff that they've done has actually worked out a lot. I don't know if you need to talk to guys on the field while the ball is in play.
Well, don't look now, guys, but the Chicago White Sox are getting hot. They broke their 14-game losing streak last night with a 7-2 win over the Red Sox, and according to Fangraphs, their AL playoff chances is 0.0. Not even a slight chance. Oakland is second worst, 0.2%. Joining them in the basement as well is the Rockies of the NL. They're also at 0.0, so it's early over, or it's over early, for the Rockies.
Look, Emmett, the reality
for Aaron's Rockies, by the way.
Thanks, Emmett. Yeah. The notable things that have happened to them this year, they had their ace pitcher pinch run for no reason, and he broke his arm. That was a good move. Then their hitting coach decided to fly the plane on the charter, and they got fined by the FAA or something. I mean, look, the Rockies are crashing in a variety of ways. As far as the White Sox are concerned, Emmett, I think they're right there, neck and neck right now, worst organizations in all of sports. They're just guys are talking about punching people and fighting people. By the way, they lose every fight they try. Tim Anderson's still trying to peel himself off the infield after what happened with Jose Ramirez last year. They have no culture whatsoever. I mean, I think everything just about in Chicago with the White Sox, this side of ESPN 1000, their radio home. That's the only good decision they've made in the last decade.
Yeah, I mean, I think of La Russa being the manager. Remember, that didn't work out too well.
He was hardly awake during the game.
Exactly. Yeah. So, hey, man, it's tough, but they're in the AL Central, so, hey, I don't really care right now.
I mean, for your Guardians, who are just cleaning up, they're 78% chance to make the playoffs. The Royals, those are two of the best teams in the American League. While everybody talks about Juan Soto and the Dodgers and Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge, two of the best teams in all of baseball this year, Cleveland and Kansas City. Coming up, how much does the Stanley Cup mean to an entire country of Toronto? Toronto's not a country. This is ESPN Radio.
The Stanley Cup Final. Oil Country looks to celebrate for the first time since 1990. The Panthers have waited a lifetime to capture their first Stanley Cup. The Stanley Cup Final, Game 1, Saturday on ABC.
Keep right.
Mandy's 3 tickets are now on sale.
Go to ESPNLA.com and click on the Mandy's 3 logo.
Get them today before they sell out.
Mandy's 3 is presented by
George Chevrolet, presenting the Producer of the Year Award. This year at the Mandy's, George Chevrolet, your 6-time Chevy Dealer of the Year.
Don't miss your chance to be at the Commerce Casino for the biggest party 710 throws all year. Mandy's 3.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online at hims.com/joy. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation to determine the ED medication that's best for you. Discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and a range of treatment options, including trusted generic alternatives to the name brands, at up to 95% off. ED is personal, and at Hims, so is treating it. Just go to hims.com/joy and get connected to a licensed medical provider online for free with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, hims.com/joy. That's hims.com/joy for your free online visit. HIMS.com/JOY.
When pain
keeps you from doing what you love, Hoag Orthopedic Institute gets you back to you. We are ranked number 18 in the nation and number 1 in Orange County for orthopedic and spine care by U.S. News and World Report. From the surf to the green, our world-class doctors are there, which is why more Californians choose Hoag Orthopedic Institute for orthopedic and spine care more than any other hospital. At Hoag Orthopedic Institute, there is no one better at getting you back to you. Proudly founded by premier physicians in partnership with Hoag. Learn more at HoagOrthopedicInstitute.com. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. Covenant House is the national leader providing safe housing for youth, 50 years strong. Help us fight youth homelessness. Go to covenanthouse.org.
This is your captain. We are going to be experiencing some slight turbulence. Please fasten your... Oh, hold on. Just got a video of my cat.
Imagine the pilot of an airplane was as confident as you are texting and driving. Seems kind of crazy when you put it like that.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
The most followed sports radio station in America.
710 ESPN.
At ESPN Los Angeles on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, and Twitch.
LA's mega sports station.
710 ESPN. LA's mega sports station.
710 ESPN.
I'm Ed Bank, and according to some reports, Caitlin Clark will not be going to Paris next month for the Olympics. She's reportedly being let off the USA women's basketball team. She was unable to play at the national training camp this year because of Iowa's run to the Final Four. Diana Taurasi and Brittany Griner among those expected to be named to the team. Tennis for Iga Swiatek continues to dominate. She won her third straight French Open, beating Jasmine Polini in straight sets 6-2, 6-1. Swiatek lost only one set in 7 matches on her way to the title. To hockey, where a team from Canada hasn't hoisted a Stanley Cup since the 1993 Montreal Canadiens. Edmonton will try to break the Canadian drought beginning tonight as the Oilers and Panthers battle in Game 1 of the finals. Meanwhile, the favorite Panthers will be going for their first ever Stanley Cup after losing the finals last year. ESPN's Emily Kaplan says the pressure is on for Connor McDavid to get his first cup for Edmonton.
Before the season began, we got Draisaitl. His running mates basically were like, yeah, this is going to be cover box for us. But that's what happens when you're the generational best player in the world. You're on a team that won the draft lottery 3 times in a very short span, and you haven't won yet, and everyone's looking at you guys to get it done.
They will face off at 8 Eastern on ABC and the ESPN app. Florida is a minus 145 favorite on ESPN Bet. Tomorrow's Game 2 of the NBA Finals between the Mavericks and Celtics on ESPN Radio. Coverage gets underway at 7 Eastern. The game can also be seen on ABC. Baseball Super Regions. Tennessee leading Evansville 4-3 as they play in the 5th inning.
Hey, it's Michelle Smallman. Coming up Monday, we've got a massive sports weekend. I'll tell you my biggest or smallest takeaways with all the small things at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. It's Unsportsmanlike Monday, 6 a.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals is tonight. Oilers and Panthers. No one breaks down hockey quite like ESPN Radio's Emmett Goldman. We'll do it next, right here on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. I'm Aaron Goldhammer. He is Emmett Golden. We are Hammer and Emmett on ESPN Radio. Sirius XM Channel 80. Emmett, the game tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern Time on ABC and ESPN+. We had PK Subban scheduled to join us in this segment, but he is surprisingly unavailable at the last moment. So instead, you're going to answer all of my hot Stanley Cup questions here.
Nah, we still got time, man. You know, PK might still pop up. You know, that's all right. Don't come to me. I'm a question asker, not a question answer.
Evan, I will say this on behalf of the hockey. I don't care what 2 teams are playing. If you tell me that there is an overtime game in the Stanley Cup playoffs or the Stanley Cup finals on, I will put it on and watch it. Because the drama of the sudden death of one puck bouncing off one skate and getting inches past a goalie, deciding a series or a season for a team is so rich. Even though it's not a sport that I follow day to day to day throughout the course of the regular season, that is must-see TV to me. And so this game, I don't know if it'll be on at my house in the first period, but I think if it goes to overtime, it'll definitely be on the big screen in the basement.
I'm not a bucket list guy, but I've been fortunate enough to be inside some great sports environments throughout my career. I'd love to be in a Stanley Cup game, final. Just when you watch on TV, it looks like the most turned up environment in all of sports. And I'm talking about, I've been at Ohio State, Michigan, at Ohio State and Michigan. Yeah. And, those environments are out of this world. And when you watch on TV, and I don't care where the Stanley Cup final was being played, it looks like the loudest, most intense environment there is.
But I think it hurt the NHL a little that the Panthers beat the Rangers, because I think Edmonton, with the Canadian story, haven't won the Cup in 31 years. Connor McDavid's the face of the league now. Going up against the New York Rangers, I think that would have been, and having Madison Square Garden in the mix, I think that would have been an epic, very highly rated. I'm sure our executives here at ESPN were secretly rooting for that. But I hear from people that really know hockey that this is really set up to be a great series, and that the Panthers are actually, on paper, the better of the two teams, which is why they're ever so slightly a favorite to win this series on ESPN Bet.
Yeah, and their goalie is Sergei Bobrovsky, who, we know a little bit coming from the Blue Jackets. He's had a great Stanley Cup playoff. So when you got a hot goalie, you kind of have the momentum, then, you got a great chance.
I think the NHL has struggled, even in the post-Gretzky era, to really develop the perfect face, okay? And I think now finally Connor McDavid has become that guy. Emmett, it's time for us to head out to the hotline. You are off the hook as our NHL analyst.
I told you we could count on PK.
Instead, we bring in one of the most famous Canadians there is on Hammer and Emmett on ESPN Radio. PK Subban played 13 years in the NHL. He won a Norris Trophy. Game 1 of the Cup final is tonight. It is 8 o'clock Eastern Time on ESPN Plus, and of course on ABC. And PK, fans have been split this morning. We've been talking to Canadian fans all morning, and we know Edmonton's rooting for the Oilers. But I'm curious, like your buddies from Toronto from growing up, are they rooting for Canada to reclaim the Cup, or are they bitter Leafs fans that want the Oilers to crash and burn?
Exit right. Well, first of all, I don't know if I'm one of the most famous people in Canada, but I'm definitely one of the better looking ones, that's for sure. So let's put that on the record. Let's start there. It's very difficult. I would love to say that everybody in Canada is pulling for the Edmonton Oilers, but I don't think that's the case. I think that Toronto fans are probably hoping that a Canadian team doesn't win before they get a chance. And that goes for Montreal, Vancouver, Calgary, and the rest of the team. So, I find myself pulling more so for Connor McDavid rather than the whole Canadian thing. I think as an ex-player, I'm on the player side. I've always been for the players, and he's a guy who has just gotten better and better with every year. But there's no question now. I don't know. When Sidney Crosby came into the league, there were a lot of great players. His reign as the greatest player in the NHL may still be going on. We see the year that he had last year, right? 30-plus goals and whatnot, almost pulls Pittsburgh into a playoff spot. I still think he is, if he's not at the top of the list, pretty close as the best all-around player. But when you come to, generational talent, we've never seen somebody like Connor McDavid. I don't care what anybody says. We've never seen anybody like him. He might be the best engineered hockey player that I've ever seen, and that the game's ever seen. So he has the ability to do things that we've seen, players show flashes of, but he does it consistently, and he does it so easily. So, I find myself, and I'd like to hope that most of the people in Canada find themselves pulling more for Connor than they are for just the city of Edmonton. I mean, they've won a ton of championships. Obviously, we know the Gretzky and Mats and all that. But I find myself pulling for Connor more And, you know, the one thing about hockey, what we love is it's the ultimate team sport. But within that, you have some pretty amazing and great individual players. And he might be the best player, you know, that we've seen since Sidney Crosby first came into the league. And, you know, what's Connor McDavid going to look like with a Stanley Cup ring, right? And a Stanley Cup on his resume. So I find myself pulling for that for sure because of how great he is. But Florida's a hell of a team, and it's going to take everything for us to beat.
PK, you played in a Cup final. What is it like for the players right now, 7.5 hours away from game one, you know, the pinnacle of the sport? What are the players going through right now?
Well, it's dreams and nightmares, right? And, you know, sometimes the nightmares come true as well. So it's every player that's suiting up today has dreamt about this moment their whole lives. And, you know, take every other sport and throw it in the trash. There's no other trophy that's as hardest to win as the Stanley Cup. I don't care what anybody says. It's not even close. Because the physical demand in the sport of hockey, in the game of hockey, over a season it blows away any other sport. I don't care what it is. 82 games of playing football on ice, on a skate blade. You have the couple talent, skill, toughness, grit, and it's not always the best team that wins. It's the team that can stand in the ring the longest and go round over round over round over round. And you know, that's what hockey is in a nutshell. So these players today are looking at this as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and you can't pass up a shift. Every shift has to be played like it's your last. So the intensity level goes way up, and, you know, for the talented and skilled players, you know, this is you have to be dreaming, and this is your destiny. I'm destined for Connor McDavid. It's my destiny. This is what I've worked hard for. This is part of my legacy. This is what I want. This is what I've dreamt of. This is the history of the game. This is the history of all the greats that played the game. Same thing for Matthew Tkachuk and Barkov and all these star players. I mean, how many first overall picks are playing in this Stanley Cup? So all of these guys, whether they're first rounders, first overall pick, not only dreamt about this their whole lives, they've been counted as players to win Stanley Cup since they started pro hockey. So the amount of pressure that's on both teams and certain individual players in this series is through the roof. And I really believe that's going to bring the best talented players to the forefront for the world to see on this stage. So for the guys right now, it's going to be about who can calm themselves the most. And it controls aggression, controls fury, making sure that you stick to your routine, not getting outside of your routine and thinking that you need to do something special. The game is still the same. The players are still the same. The stage is the only thing that's different, and the stage gets a little bit bigger. Some guys can handle it, some guys can't, but we'll have to see. It's got to play out. But there's no question for these guys, it's got to be excitement through the roof. Just to have the opportunity, like it's an accomplishment just to have the opportunity to play on the stage. It really is. It really is. It's so difficult to get here. For Florida to do it in back-to-back years is pretty amazing.
PK, how long did it take for you to realize that it was a hockey game just like the thousands of other hockey games you'd played in your life?
I've always had the approach that I never took myself too seriously, which means that I never looked at myself as someone who wasn't capable of making a mistake or, you know, costing my team a game. But what I did look at was, you know, I got the testicular fortitude to go after it. You know, I'm going to go after everything that I want and everything that I want to have and let the chips fall where they fall. It is just a game at the end of the day, but, you know, you don't want to hesitate. You can't hesitate. You have to grab the moment and wrap yourself around it because it is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And even though it's just a game, man, you worked tremendously hard to get here. Right? You know, think about it. All the practices and long nights and times you've been cut from teams and, you know, times where you maybe didn't think that you were even going to make it to the NHL. Like now you're at the pinnacle of that, right? You have an opportunity to etch your name on the most storied trophy and heralded trophy in professional sports. It's the hardest trophy to win, and to have an opportunity to have your name on it is is enough of a reason for you to just go out and enjoy every single moment of it. And that's why I loved what Matthew Tkachuk said, is that it's a great time to be a Florida Panther. And that's exactly his approach. He said, man, we've earned the right to be here. This is our second year being here. Let's enjoy it because, you know, it doesn't happen every year and it doesn't happen often. So that would be my mentality.
Come on, PK, you never got cut from a team. You won the Hart Trophy. They cut you. What coach cut PK Subban from a hockey team?
Yeah, I got cut from the under-18 team. I remember that. I made the under-17 team, and I went out. I had a really good camp, too. You know, the message to me was, you know, hey, we got guys ahead of you, but you had a great camp. And I remember Sam Gagner got cut from that team as well. We ended up flying back to Toronto together. And then by Christmas time, he ended up making the World Junior team. I was still playing junior, so I have been cut from a team before. But, I look back at that and listen, it's possible. There's a lot of great players out there. Not everything's going to go your way, but to be in a position where you get to play in the Stanley Cup final, you definitely look back at all those moments and you appreciate it. You know, because nothing's given to you. Nothing is guaranteed. So to get to this moment for these players and look back at all the moments, the ups and downs of their careers, like those are the things that give you energy in this moment. Like I'm going to tell you something. These guys are tired. These guys are tired. They're sore. They're battered. They're bruised. They're banged up. But they're going to find sources of energy, and that could be an external source. That could be the difference for you as a player. So you definitely want to reflect and look back at all those things to draw energy to yourself in these moments.
PK, we can't wait. Stanley Cup Finals Game 1 is tonight. Oilers and Panthers, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, ABC, ESPN+. Appreciate the time. PK Subban with us, ESPN NHL analyst, and of course, former winner of the Norris Trophy. Coming up, we give you our picks as championship weekend with the Cup and the Larry-O on the line. Hammer and Emmett on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
The NBA Finals on ESPN Radio. After dropping Game 1 in Boston, the Mavs look to respond, while Boston has their sights set on a 2-0 lead when they head to Dallas.
Porzingis drills another deep one.
Coverage begins tomorrow at 7 Eastern, with tip-off at 8 Eastern, on ESPN Radio and on ABC. Presented by Indeed.
Mandy's 3 tickets are now on sale.
Go to ESPNLA.com and click on the Mandy's 3 logo.
Get them today before they sell out.
Mandy's 3 is presented by
TLC Creative. Break a leg, not your back. TLC uses innovative technology to intrigue, entertain, and excite the most demanding audiences. Don't miss your chance to be at the Commerce Casino for the biggest party 710 throws all year. Mandy's 3.
Accident. Call Jacob and Ronnie. Call Jacob.
Hey, it's Mace. When I was in an accident, my friend Jacob was the first person I called. He should be your first call, too. Call Jacob, 844-24-JACOB, or visit calljacob.com.
Call Jacob.
Hey everybody, it's Cap, and I want to talk to you about my people at PrizePicks. First of all, download that PrizePicks app and use my code CAPPY. They match your first deposit 100% up to $100. You put in 100, they put in 100, you play with 200. Then it's me, you, and 5 million people, and we're all playing PrizePicks. Big shout out to my guy Bernard Thompson, BT, my man. Turned $10 into $980 while playing on PrizePicks. And listen, basketball season's winding down, or is it? Because all of a sudden, here comes the WNBA. I've never in my life been interested in the WNBA. Caitlin Clark, my girl, let's go. And I'm telling you, now I'm interested in the WNBA. I'm playing it all the time. So I take Caitlin Clark. Is she going to score more or less than her projections? Is she going to have more points, rebounds, and assists than her projections? I'm even playing esports right now, Counter-Strike 2, Call of Duty, League of Legends, and so much more. Download the PrizePicks app. Use my code CAPPY, and let's all play together on PrizePicks.
Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out. But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, that frog will boil. As a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans, it's a story that rings true. We learn to endure the heat in silence. We apply what we learn to life, the bills, the job, the family. Things we're expected to handle with ease. When life heats up around us, we just try to stay afloat. We let the water boil. Reaching out isn't easy, but you've never been interested in easy. You joined because you were not afraid of hard work. You are not a frog. If you or a veteran you know needs support, don't wait until the water boils. Reach out. Find resources at va.gov/reach. That's va.gov/reach. Brought to you by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs and the Ad Council.
Stand Up to Cancer's vehicle donation program makes it easy to turn your unwanted vehicle into funding to support innovative cancer research. This research leads to new treatments for patients right now. Donate your car today. Visit standuptocancer.org/cars to learn more.
LA's mega sports station.
710 ESPN.
Stanley Cup Final Game 1 is tonight. Game 2 NBA Finals is tomorrow. What a weekend on ESPN and on ABC. This is Hammer and Emmett on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80. Emmett, you and I are the only two events that could possibly upstage the Stanley Cup Finals and the NBA Finals. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. I just saw this come across. I wanted to throw it out to you, get your take on it. Jason Kidd doing some off-day media availability today.
Yep.
Quote, Jalen's their best player, unquote. He's talking about the Celtics and called Jaylen Brown, not Jason Tatum, their best player. Is he truth-telling or smack-talking?
I think no, because it wasn't even last game. You could argue that Porzingis was their best player. I think it's a little bit of both. Like, I think Jaylen and Jason are two great players, and on any given day, either one of them could be the best player on the team. Can it be taken as some smack talk? Sure, but I would let Jason Kidd know, all right, just focus on Jaylen if you want to. You know, you better give Tatum the same respect that you're giving Jaylen, or next thing you know, Tatum will have 40 and you'll be down 0-2.
Emmett, I think the Celtics are at their best when they're balanced, like they were in Game 1. You know, they had 7 guys make three-point shots. I think that's when they're the most dangerous. So I think this is strategic by Jason Kidd. I don't know that he really believes Jaylen Brown is their best player. I'm calling this intentional bulletin board material because I think Jay Kidd is trying to put pressure on Jason Tatum to take more shots and score more points because he thinks that's the Mavericks' best chance to win Game 2. What do you make of that?
I could see that, you know, make them force and press, and, you know, maybe there's times when you should move the ball and other guys get shots. I could see that. I don't think Tatum is going to fall for it if that's the case, though. I don't. I think about everything I've heard Jason Tatum say leading up to Game 1 of the Finals. He talked about, let's have fun. Like, man, this should be a great experience. And it seems like, you know, having, you know, losing in the finals before, I think he appreciates this opportunity and says, you know what, if I enjoy this moment, the best thing will happen. Like, whatever is the best outcome will probably happen for me. And he'll be a better player himself. Now, look, he didn't shoot it well in Game 1. In 42 minutes, he was 6 of 16 for 16 points. But he had 5 assists. He had 11 rebounds, and he affected the game in other ways. 6 turnovers, too. Some tells me that he'll kind of rectify that and be better in that area.
Yeah, that's the Celtics. That's Brown and Tatum. They both turn the ball over too much. We've talked about this before. You called Jaylen Brown the Celtics' best player. Look up on YouTube. He can't dribble with his left hand.
Yeah.
I mean, he's great at a lot of things. He'll block dunks at the rim and stuff and throw down incredible ones. But if you force him left, there's a chance every time that he's going to turn the ball over. Hammer and Emmett on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app. So there's been a lot of conversation like, will Tatum's number be hanging in the rafters next to Bill Russell, Larry Bird, and John Havlicek and Dave Cowens and the Celtic greats of the past? Will he be haunting the TD Garden like all the – and I think if you're Tatum right now, Emmett, you got to block all that crap out, okay?
Yeah.
The only way your number is going to be hanging next to Larry Bird is if you win not just a championship, but probably by Boston standard, it's multiple championships. How many points you score in Game 2 tomorrow night is not going to dictate your quote-unquote Celtic legacy. I don't consider Jason Tatum to be a top 5 player in the NBA, but he's definitely top 15. And Evan, I think top to bottom, he plays on the best team. And if you're a Celtic fan and you're Jason Tatum, that's the only thing that should matter, not this conversation around, well, Jaylen Brown won the Larry Bird Award for the MVP of the Eastern Conference playoffs.
Yeah, I don't think any of that matters. Also, since, like, when, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't remember it. When Tatum was drafted to the Celtics, did everyone say this is the next Bill Russell?
No.
Or next Larry Bird?
No.
No, right. So why are we comparing him to them? You know, like, that makes no sense. I understand why LeBron and Jordan and Kobe, like, I understand why we measure those guys amongst each other.
Yeah.
But Tatum, when he came in, was like, hey, it's a great young player. He has a chance to help lead this team to a championship. And if he does that and maybe does, two, wins 2 titles, then it's been a successful career. And
the reason we say Paul Pierce is on that list, I don't know, Bill Russell's won 11 titles and invented the greatness. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Larry Bird was historically great on a variety of levels, as a passer, as a shooter, as a competitor. Paul Pierce doesn't belong in the same conversation as those guys. It's just the theatrics of the championship that he won is the reason why Boston loves him on that level. The fact that they wheeled him out in a wheelchair and he came back in the same game and was hitting shots.
Which was capped, too. Like, come on, man. You get wheeled out in a wheelchair.
Exactly.
Exactly. Come on, man.
So do I think Tatum could be on Paul Pierce's level? I do. Do I think he could ever be on Bill Russell's level? I find that extremely hard to believe, Emmett, and that's not an insult to Jason Tatum. He's just not a historically legendary superstar that's going to have the NBA Finals trophy named after him.
Yes, there's no reason to put that type of pressure on him. But I think he has the right attitude for it, and I think you're going to see a better player because of his attitude.
I think this is total J. Kidd, though, trying to stir this up in the Celtic locker room. And because I think he knows what I know, which is they're at the most dangerous spot. They're at the most dangerous spot when they're playing as a team, not when Jason Tatum is out there trying to prove Jason Kidd, another fellow Jason, wrong. Anyway, Game 2 tomorrow night. Also, MLB Saturday baseball action this afternoon. Yankees-Dodgers, presented by Progressive Insurance. Coverage starts 7 o'clock Eastern on ESPN Radio on the ESPN app. Up next, more ESPN Radio with Maria Marinos and David Dennis Jr. It's Game Day on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Hey, this show and all of ESPN Radio is streaming live on the ESPN app, featuring ESPN Plus, where you get more ESPN. Download the ESPN app today and take ESPN and ESPN Radio everywhere.
Mandy's 3 tickets are now on sale.
Go to ESPNLA.com and click on the Mandy's 3 logo.
Get them today before they sell out.
Mandy's 3 is presented by
Tequila Mandala. Once again presenting the Best Segment Award this year at the Mandy's. Tequila Mandala. Demand the extraordinary.
Don't miss your chance to be at the Commerce Casino for the biggest party 710 throws all year. Mandy's 3.
Do you have 3 ex-wives and your current trophy wife wants a life insurance policy 3 times the size of the policies you had to purchase for your previous mistakes? If so, you need to call Big Lou at Term Provider, 800-777-1225. Big Lou is intimately familiar with your problems, and if you're 50 or 60 years old and in reasonably good health, a $1 million policy should only cost about $100 to $200 per month. Big Lou may have a solution for your previous policies as well. You may even save enough money to lighten the load on your new $1 million policy. Remember, call Big Lou. He's like you, except he's only on number 2. Call Term Provider at 800-777-1225. That's 800-777-1225 for $1 million in term life insurance that you can live with. Call Big Lou at 800-777-1225. 800-777-1225.
Just as every point matters, Every detail counts in our meticulously crafted vehicles. Experience luxury at the top of its game. Welcome to Cadillac of Beverly Hills, the #1 Cadillac dealer in the Western region for the 3rd year in a row. Come and check out the incredible selection of new and pre-owned vehicles today at our showroom, 8767 Wilshire Boulevard in Beverly Hills, and at CadillacBeverlyHills.com.
Next Gen is the official AC Heat and Plumbing Company of SoCal sports fans. That's right. Next Gen is the absolute best in the biz with thousands of 5-star reviews and happy customers. Right now, get an $88 drain cleaning, and they'll add in a free plumbing camera inspection. So, if you're sick of dealing with a slow drain, call 833-3-NEXTGEN. That's 833-3-NEXGEN and say goodbye to your AC heating and plumbing problems.
NEXGEN, call 833-3-NEXTGEN.
Pacific Palms Resort, LA's Hilltop Hideaway and #1 work and play resort, provides opportunities for all travelers and locals. Pamper yourself and relax at the spa. Hit the links at one of their 2 championship courses. Pacific Palms Resort is the perfect venue to host those business meetings, weddings, and big events. Enjoy a beautiful staycation or family holiday at their Hilltop property. Book your stay at LA's #1 work and play resort today at PacificPalmsResort.com.
It's Evan Cohen, Unsportsmanlike with Evan, Candy, and Michelle. Now, mornings 6 to 10 a.m. on LA's mega sports station, 710 ESPN. KSPN Los Angeles, a Good Karma Brands radio station.
Sports Center. I'm Doug Brown. Caitlin Clark will not play for the U.S. women's basketball team at the Olympics in Paris. Clark couldn't play at the team's training camp because of Iowa's run to the Final Four. The U.S. team will still have a star-studded roster, including Diana Taurasi, Brittany Griner, Asia Wilson, and Brianna Stewart. The Stanley Cup Final faces off tonight in Sunrise, Florida. The Panthers and the Oilers. Edmonton might have more of the star power, but ESPN's Greg Wyshynski says it's no accident the Panthers are in the final for a second straight year.
They have a guy named Alexander Barkov, big center and a player that has played even with McDavid in the last 6 times that they've met in the regular season. He won the Selke Trophy for being the best defensive forward in hockey, and the plans are right now for Florida to line him up against McDavid to start this series, and he's probably their best path to neutralize them. But the Panthers are just a superior defensive team. They were #1 in the NHL during the regular season in goals allowed, clamping down on opponents.
Greg Wyshynski on game night, Game 1 coverage of the Stanley Cup Final at 8 Eastern tonight on ABC and ESPN+. Iga Swiatek wins the French Open title, beating Jasmine Paolini in straight sets. For Swiatek, it's her 5th Grand Slam title, her 3rd straight at the French. The men's final is tomorrow, Carlos Alcaraz against Alexander Zverev. Baseball tonight here on ESPN Radio, 8 Eastern, or make it 7 Eastern. The coverage starts. The Yankees host the Dodgers in the Bronx.
Hey, it's your resident Super Bowl champ, Chris Candy. Coming up Monday, I'll give you my biggest takeaways from Game 2 of the Finals with Upon Further Review at 6:30 a.m. Eastern. It's Unsportsmanlike, Monday, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
This is Game Day on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app.
LA's mega sports station.
710 ESPN.
SiriusXM Channel 80. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. I'm Maria Marino. Excited to be working with David Dennis Jr. for the first time. David, how we doing?
Doing good. Happy to, run a full court press with you. It's going to be a blast today.
Yeah, absolutely. We're with you over the next 3 hours, and what a game day it is. We have Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final tonight on ABC between the Oilers and Panthers. 2 of the best teams in the WNBA are about to tip off as we speak, the Sun and Liberty. We have some Olympic women's basketball news, a notable omission from the roster. Also, Should Dan Hurley be the next coach of the Lakers? We're going to get into all of that and more. Whew, it's going to be a loaded show. But I feel like, David, we got to start with the NBA Finals. Game 2 is tomorrow on ESPN Radio between the Mavericks and Celtics. Coverage starting at 7 Eastern. And let me start with this. Who was your pick going into the finals? Obviously, we know how Game 1 went. Celtics took care of business. But going in, what was your prediction?
Okay, my prediction is a little complicated, not as straightforward as one would think. So my prediction was this. My prediction was Boston in 6 with a full preparation for them to make me look bad and embarrass me by once again losing to a team that they are better than. Like the Celtics team, since they've been as they're currently constructed for the last few years, has lost to teams that they are better than, and that they went into these series as favorites. Obviously, the Heat last year, they were massive favorites over that Heat team. Went down 0-3, as we know, and laid an egg in Game 7. Warriors, that Celtics team was, better than that Warriors team on paper. They probably should have won that series, went home. They had a 2-1 lead going into that Game 4. So the Celtics they let us down. And so I was prepared for that, even though I think they're a better team, and I think they should be able to win this in 6.
I think that's totally fair. We've gotten accustomed to the Celtics sort of planting the seeds of doubt over the years. And this season, to me, felt a little different. They switched things up big time. I mean, trading Marcus Smart, you bring in Kristaps Porzingis. How about Drew Holiday? I mean, talk about, I feel like they're probably the biggest winner of the Damian Lillard trade
Right.
is just because the way that the pieces fell. They get Drew Holiday, and obviously we're the best team all year. So I certainly felt like, okay, this time could be different. I'm with you. I felt like I liked Boston coming into the series. Now, Game 1, I expected the Celtics to cover the spread. They were favored by 6.5 by the time the game tipped off. I did not expect a blowout like this, though. I did not expect them to get just to annihilate the Mavericks in the way that they did. What did you make of just how the game script unfolded?
Well, this is the thing that's complicated about the Celtics. They have these games every 14 days or so where they just cannot miss a 3, and they usually happen either at the beginning of a series or at the very end of the series, and it's a gut punch. They started this game off 7 for 15 from 3 in the first quarter. That is like supernova numbers, and they do this. They did this against the Warriors in Game 1. You remember that fourth quarter where they had the big comeback. They couldn't miss any threes. They did this against the 76ers last year in Game 7. Tatum had 50 points. They did this against Milwaukee a couple years ago. They just have these games where they line up and everything just goes in. So when that happens, there's nothing you can do about it. You just got to kind of just, wear a blindfold and just hope that the rest of the game goes okay. Now, if you're Dallas, you're hardened by the fact that this was an outlier type of three-pointer quarter that they're not going to do probably the next game. You can say that Kristaps Porzingis walking into 30-foot three-pointers is probably not going to happen. So there are some things that can, make you feel better. But once they started rolling downhill like that, the game was over.
Right. And when I say, I thought that Kristaps Porzingis kind of changed everything for Boston this year, I mean, that didn't necessarily give me a whole lot of comfort going into the series for Boston because the man hadn't played since April 29th, right?
Right.
So we're like, okay, how is he going to look? And he emphatically answered that question in the affirmative as soon as he checked into the game. So I don't even necessarily expect him to be, to your point, as efficient in the next game. But, I mean, you're talking 20 points in 21 minutes. Like you said, knocked down a couple of threes, had 3 blocks. He was everything you could possibly need or want. Certainly stretched out the floor, made things difficult for Dallas defensively, which I think we all knew that was going to be a challenge going in anyway because Dallas has not been the best defensive team. But if you are as balanced as Boston was, and again, I don't expect it to be as easy in Game 2, but all 5 starters scoring in double figures plus KP off the bench, I mean, that formula is just incredibly difficult to stop.
Boston had 7 players that made at least 2 threes. I don't think anybody scored more than 22 points for Boston. It was a total team effort. Porzingis, Dallas is not going to win if Luka's not the best player on the court for most of this series. They're definitely not going to win if Luka's not the best Eastern European player on the court. Like, you've got to pull it together. Defensively, they could not stay in front of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, especially in that third quarter when they cut it down to 8. Defensively, they have a lot to work on. Offensively, though, I think that's where their big problem is.
For sure. And you mentioned just the difficulties from 3, Kyrie Irving in particular, 0 of 5 from 3. Something I'm not expecting again. By the way, a reminder, this is Game Day on ESPN Radio. Maria Marino hanging out with David Dennis Jr., getting you set for Game 2 of the NBA Finals. And I think I'm not the only one that expects a better game in this second game of the series. Danny Green, ESPN NBA analyst, expects the Mavericks to bounce back.
I'm not concerned at all, really. It's just one game. The game was a lot closer than what the score showed. So if I'm Dallas, I think I make a few adjustments. Kai's going to play better. I don't see him playing this poorly in Game 2. The other guys will make shots. Luka is settled in now. He won't make the silly turnovers he had in the game as well. So I'm not concerned at all if I'm Dallas. I actually take some good away from it. As bad as you guys played, you cut it to 8, being down 30 at one point. So there's some good to take away from it. Continue to do what you do. Make some tweaks, some small adjustments. Let Kyrie do what he does. Set better screens. Make them switch. Make Al Horford come out on the paint and Porzingis, and then let them do what they do. So I don't see Kyrie shooting this poorly, and I think Dallas will probably get the second game if I had to predict.
Yup. David Dennis Jr., look, you already discussed sort of the 3-point variance of this series. I think it's super interesting. Boston leads the NBA in 3-point attempts. Guess who's number 2? Dallas. So, look, if they knock down some of those shots, they only made 7 threes out of 27 attempts, so 26% from 3 for Dallas. It changes the game when you're hitting those shots. But what other adjustments do you expect for Game 2 on the Dallas side of things?
First of all due respect to Danny Green, it was a lot closer than, they were down 29 points before the streetlights came on outside. Like, that game felt like it was over a quarter and a half into the game. So the difference here, though, that Dallas needs to do, they need to win these matchups in the perimeter. Luka and Kyrie in particular, Boston felt way too comfortable guarding those guys one-on-one. You have to break down the primary defender, especially if you're going to get Horford on the island, if you're going to get Porzingis on the island. You need to be able to penetrate and get the ball out. Dallas only had 2 corner 3 attempts for the whole game. They led the league in corner 3 attempts. They only had one lob attempt that whole game. They led the league in lob attempts. 13% of their threes, I think, came from the corner. So they were not able to get the ball around. Only 9 assists. Mm-hmm. Boston had 9 blocks. Like, that offense needs to break down that Boston defense and force them to even at least consider blitzing Luka. But if you're not winning those matchups, if Jaylen Brown is going to be able to give Luka that much difficulty and Kyrie's going to go 6 for 19, it's going to be a very short series.
100%. Some of the role players for Dallas for sure are going to get more comfortable. I mean, look, somebody like PJ Washington, and he had 14 points, but 0 of 3 from beyond the arc. Like, those players outside of Luka have really been what has propelled Dallas to be in the situation that they're in. I found it fascinating. Only 1 assist for Luka Doncic, somebody who typically fills up the stat sheet. Only 2 assists for Kyrie Irving. In fact, David, I asked you before the show, how many potential assists did Luka have? You told me 6. So, look, I expect a lot better moving the ball around for Dallas, and overall a much more effective Game 2 for them. The NBA Finals are on ESPN Radio. Tune in tomorrow night for Game 2. Celtics hosting the Mavs, presented by Indeed. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. Eastern on most ESPN radio stations and on SiriusXM Channel 80. Now, we also have Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final tonight, and a lot of pressure on one of the game's brightest stars. We're going to discuss that next. This is Game Day on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
The NBA Finals. The Ducks.
From the steal, from the front.
the dimes.
Tatum hits the rolling Porzingis to the rim for the slam.
The daggers.
Moved off the high screen. Hits the three from the left.
The NBA Finals continue on ESPN Radio and on ABC.
Mandy's 3 tickets are now on sale.
Go to ESPNLA.com and click on the Mandy's 3 logo.
Get them today before they sell out.
Mandy's 3 is presented by
Children's Dental Fun Zone, presenting the Smile Cam and the Best Smile Award this year at the Mandy's. Children's Dental Fun Zone. We treat your kids as our own. Don't miss your chance to be at the Commerce Casino for the biggest party 710 throws all year. Mandy's 3.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Time for an oil change? Right now, you can save on Valvoline Restore and Protect, the only oil that restores and protects your engine to like factory clean. You can also save on brakes, tools, and more during the Father's Day sale with dad-approved deals through June 16th. AutoZone Father's Day sale, now through the 16th.
Robert Half research indicates 9 out of 10 hiring managers are having difficulty hiring. If you have open roles, chances are you're feeling this too. That's why you need Robert Half. Our specialized recruiting professionals engage with our proprietary AI to connect businesses of all sizes with highly skilled talent in finance and accounting, technology, marketing and creative, legal, and administrative and customer support. At Robert Half, we know talent. Visit roberthalf.com today.
Now your ideas don't have to wait. Now they have everything they need to come to life. Dell Technologies and Intel are creating technology that loves ideas, loves expanding your business, evolving your passions. We push what technology can do, so great ideas can happen right now. Find out how to bring your ideas to life at Dell.com. Welcome to Now.
Flo here from Progressive to tell you how you get more than great savings with us. You get customer service access through our mobile app, online chat, or by phone.
That's a lot of ways I can get in touch with you. I see what's going on here. You can't name favorites, but I'm your #1 customer.
Actually, we offer all our customers these ways to contact us.
I'm sure you give just any customer your personal
company
contact info.
Well, you did call us more than any other customer this year. So in that sense, you are our #1 customer.
Get help from Progressive through the website, app, chat, or phone. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Once upon a time, our family had trouble with pests around our home. Did you know that stinging insects send tons of people to the hospital? And teeny ticks and mosquitoes can be all around the yard. Their bites can make people and their pets sick. Mice, rats, and roaches need food and water just like us. You do not want them to visit. They can spread disease and make it hard to breathe. I'm sure glad this story has a happy ending.
Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org. A public service message from the National Pest Management Association.
LA's mega sports station.
710 ESPN.
McDavid, top of the circle. Now Draisaitl coming off the goal line. Finds McDavid. Heading for the net. Around Steele. Toe drag. Backhander score. What a sensational goal by the captain, Connor McDavid. It's 1-0 Edmonton in Game 6. Spectacular!
Spectacular call there by CHED. Credit there on the call. This is Game Day on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, and SiriusXM Channel 80, presented by Progressive Insurance. Maria Marino, along with David Dennis Jr. So, Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final is finally here tonight. Oilers, Panthers, 8 Eastern on ABC. And by all accounts, this should be a great series. The Panthers are favored going in, but the Oilers have one of the sport's brightest stars in Connor McDavid. David, I mean, how do you look at this final from a big picture perspective, especially with regard to McDavid?
Well, this final actually reminds me of the NBA finals. Like, you have one team with two big stars, like two transcendent stars, with McDavid and Draisaitl. the Oilers side. And then you have a complete team on the other side that's favored a little bit better, but it's going to come down to depth versus star power and who's going to, take over. And, you asked me to sort of retcon my prediction here, and it's your turn. It's your turn to tell. The series has not started. I want to know who you got in this final.
I mean, I have to go with the Panthers. I think that they have shown their, experience, their poise, the way that they handled the Rangers in the prior round. I think they've been super consistent. I think they are rightfully favored. And you mentioned the experience. I mean, being in their second straight Cup final, and I thought an interesting comparison by you, talking about the NBA side of things, like the Panthers are definitely the NHL equivalent of the Celtics, in my opinion. They've been close, and they're back where they're supposed to be, and arguably better than before. And there's a lot riding on this in terms of the idea that it's been quite a while since a Canadian team has actually won the Stanley Cup. 1993 was the last time when Montreal did it, and so there's quite a bit riding on the shoulders, I think, of the Oilers, and in particular, Connor McDavid. In fact, Emily Kaplan spoke about this on Unsportsmanlike. She's our ESPN NHL analyst, just talking about how much pressure is Connor McDavid under.
There's a lot of pressure, and he puts a lot on himself. I mean, before the season, he and Leon Draisaitl, his running mate, basically were like, yeah, this is going to be cup or bust for us. But that's what happens when you're the generational best player in the world. You're on a team that won the draft lottery 3 times in a very short span, and you haven't won yet, and everyone's looking at you guys to get it done. The country of Canada hasn't won a Stanley Cup in 31 years. I don't know necessarily if the entire country is rooting for Edmonton. I mean, their biggest rivals are Calgary. We saw them get in a heated battle with Vancouver in these playoffs. I can't imagine those two cities are really rooting for them. Zach Hyman, one of their star players, is from Toronto. He used to play for the Leafs. He's like, yeah, I don't think Toronto's rooting for us either. But I do think a lot of people are rooting for Connor McDavid because we want to see the great reach their ultimate goal. We don't want to have the conversation, is he the greatest of all time? But he didn't win, so how can we